Today, I am joined by a very special guest. She's Fijian, but actually lives here in Australia as well, Tupou. Hello, how are you?
Hi, Letitia. Good, thank you.
Yes, thank you for joining us. We're going to be having a discussion today, I guess, particularly around family and when our family speaks up about some of the issues that have gone on, because sometimes we like to cover these up. Now, your daughter is Mele, and she was one of the first women I interviewed 3 years ago. Her story is in this book. She's
Mhm,
chapter 5.
mhm.
And then recently, just a few months ago, I interviewed her on episode 99. And so Melly has been very honest about her past abuse, past lifestyles, and I know many people have been encouraged and helped. And so this is her mother. And so I thought it'd be good to interview and have a chat to a mother just about how, from your point of view, you have felt listening to all of these things, because over the years, as different women have spoken out and even different men, there's been pressure from family members not to speak, to stay silent, not to uncover the issues. But the truth is, most of these problems, I mean, every family has problems, don't we? Every family. And so the more we can be honest, I think the more we can heal. So you have um, been kind of on the sidelines watching a lot of these interviews, finding about these things for the first time. When you first heard Melly speak 3 years ago, Tupou, what were you feeling?
Um, I think initially just some deep sorrow, that that she was going through that she had to go through that, and being so clueless myself. I think because I had come from a very secure, and I never knew those such things happen. And but then when she told me, she said he was massaging my stomach. And at that time, I said, why would he be massaging a little girl's stomach? It was a concept so foreign to me. Not until I came to Australia and I started studying a diploma in community services. And then I was faced with all of these horrible things that people do. Then I realized that, not everyone's the same. Not everyone treat little girls or little people as they should be
Mm.
treated. So when I started hearing a story, I was just so filled with sorrow and some anger that I couldn't do anything about it now, at this time, and then I think also some self-recriminations that I couldn't do more for her, or that we didn't have that connection where she could have shared more, because I think
Yeah.
she was more her daddy's girl. And so and then I think the situation was compounded when the dad died, so there was a real gulf between us. So I
Mm.
don't think she was able to readily share with me all that she was going through. And me, I was just chasing, like, after their dad died, really before he died, even just going after my education and just going for that promotion at work, and so, and not really focusing. So a lot of that was regret also, that I didn't spend more time, especially with her, because she was my only girl,
Yeah.
just, and then, and my work, because I was in the foreign ministry, I traveled a lot, trade. So I think, so a lot of self-examination on my feet, on my side, and I felt it was a lot of failing. I felt like a failure also. Um, so all of those feelings came, but just very happy for her to find her voice, and to tackle it how best. She thought that she could um, tackle it, and to heal and to move forward. So
Yeah.
so all those multitude of emotions and feelings. Yeah.
Now, just for those who aren't aware of Melly's story, because she's now 38, isn't she? So this was an incident of abuse that happened as a teenage girl for her many years ago. by a man who lived next door to you, who said, "If you tell anyone, I will kill you."
Mm,
So obviously, she was holding that in,
mm,
and not, I guess it's a different age where we are really training our children. If you are touched or anything happens,
yeah,
please come and tell. But
yeah,
back in those days, we
mm,
didn't do that training. So
no.
I think you can be a little bit kind on yourself. Um, I
Yeah.
always think we can only work with the information we know, but understandably, those feelings that you feel, and,
Mm,
and that's why I love doing training on just what are the signs now that we look for, for children who have been abused.
mm.
When she spoke out 3 years ago, had she told you part of her story, or was that kind of, you were finding it out at the same time as the rest of us?
No, she had warned me. She said, I'm going to be talking, with Letitia, and said, oh, that's really good. No, but she'll be interviewing. And that's okay. I mean, it's your story. You own it, you want to share it and help people. So all of us, my 4 sons and myself, we're all 100% behind her. She thought that she would heal in the process. Yeah, so go for it. Yeah.
Yeah, good on you. It's an amazing attitude. And what was the response? Because I know Fijian families aren't just a nuclear family. There's cousins, there's uncles, there's aunts, there's everyone near, far, and wide. What
Yeah.
was the response from the wider family? Was there a sense of shame? Like, oh my goodness, we're uncovering all our dirty linen?
Um, Not as far as I know,
Hmm.
because like as we all know, I mean, there's none of it's her fault. It was that other person's fault. If anyone wants to be brought to anything or to feel shame, it's that person.
Hmm.
And then other persons that do it to be highlighted. I get very angry when I hear people doing this, and it's good to uncover it. So because otherwise they'll just be slinking along in the dark and continue to do these things if we don't highlight it. And no, the family is very supportive, and but we're just talking among ourselves, just my boys and their families and Mele. Yeah.
I know it's your support and your love that has really helped her come through. Why is it, because quite often I do see the victim being more um, shamed than the perpetrator. The victim hasn't done anything wrong, but so often they're just told to stay silent, to keep quiet. We don't want to uncover Uncle Johnny. What is it in the culture that wants to cover these things up?
Yes, I really don't understand that bit of the culture. Because if it was me, I mean, I'd like to uncover everything. That's what I thought. I mean, I was saying before I alluded to that I think I must have been too much in a cocoon growing up because I never knew of any of those things. I was never brought up in the village setting. I think, but I think it's pretty rife, coming to hear about it now in my old age that it was pretty rife. It's pretty rife in Fiji. And I really don't know. I can't understand why people do these things.
No, well, so many of the women in this book have remained anonymous just because they don't want people to know what they've been through, and that's their right. That's definitely their right. But yeah, there's something in the culture that wants us to cover it up. Um,
Mm.
but healing comes as we bring it out into the light. Well, then again, just a couple of months ago when Mele came to me and shared another part of her story, and we did an episode on just the consequences of having many sexual partners. Again, something that is not spoken about a lot, especially publicly in the Pacific culture. How did you feel when that episode came out?
Mm. And again, like, she's an adult,
Yeah.
and anything she does, I feel that on this platform, she's doing it for herself and also for others as a learning experience. And for her, I think it's a liberating fact, when you're able to face your past, how checkered, how dark it may be. You're able to face it and to acknowledge that that's what you came through. And I think just tracing the roots of all where this bitterness and things are coming from, just able to identify the roots of that, then you can begin the healing. So I think that's the process that she had to go through, and I was very much behind her. She said she was coming to have another session with you. I said, yeah, I mean, can only be for good because you are a minister of the, in the church, and what you do is to help her to heal and to move forward and to understand the wrongs of what she's been doing and to turn over a new leaf. And that's what I see in her. So, all for the good.
Yeah, that's beautiful. If you haven't seen that episode, number 99, I'd really encourage people. And again, both Mele and myself, getting many messages because lots of people, they live life not quite understanding why they're doing this, and it's creating all these hardships and these issues. And the whole episode really was about when we go outside God's intention of sex and marriage, there's consequences, aren't there? But I remember that night we hopped back in the car and just the relief in Mele. Oh, I'm free. I thought I've got no secrets. Not everyone's meant to share publicly like that, but I think God does raise up different voices. So it can help many other people become free. What are some of the changes that you've seen in Mele's life as she has been speaking and sharing?
I've seen one thing, because I've always tried to share God with her and the word, but now she's the one that's sharing. I mean, we share together. Whereas before she said I was like force feeding her. I said I wasn't doing that. I'm just sharing. As I find something, I share with you. I said, yeah, no, now I understand, and she's appreciating God's word, and now I see that she finds solace in God, and she's not looking in other places. I think where she was looking before, and seeking God and finding her peace and her comfort in God. And for me, that's a real big major step. And she's looking forward to coming to me in 2 weeks' time. So we'll be doing a lot of Bible studies there. So looking forward to that. And also, she's a happier person, because Jesus died, he liberated us, So I can see the freedom in her, the liberty, and she's like really blooming and flourishing from because at one point, it was like walking on eggshells around her. She was so prickly, any little thing would set her off. But now we can talk. As adults. And I told her, you've got to learn to use your words, and you've got to learn to make those, have those difficult conversations. You can't always be nice. I mean, you have to say what you have to say in a nice way. And so I see that now she's able to take on board positive criticism, I might say, but objective views, and she not react and recoil and shut down. So she's really come out of her shell, and just a much happier person and a much nicer person to be around.
Mele, we love you. She'll be watching this. Yes. And that's what happens when you find healing, isn't it? And Jesus, yes. And I've seen a huge change in her as well. And she's messaging me most weeks, telling me what she's learning. And it is exciting to see what happens when we break open the darkness and allow the light of Jesus to shine in. Is powerful. And that's a big part of why I do these platforms and the books, is sharing our stories bring freedom and healing. Letting light shine in, not carrying the shame. Jesus died for our shame. to set us free, which is so cool. Now understanding a bit more of her story, does it kind of because she was a little bit rebellious growing up, and she's talked about that. Does this put some of this into perspective for you?
Oh, yes, most certainly. Because like my boys were like doves, they were, I think she was at boarding school at Sawani.
Mm-hmm.
My boys with Mars. I think my son was a deputy head boy, and I had another son in the Form 6, and they'd have like cover session at the boarding. But my two boys, they go to the school, but they don't go to that. They come home. And then somebody told him, "Hey, Mele was there." And I said, "Nah, can't be." The older brother goes, "Nah, can't be." Yeah, no, it was Mele. And I said, "Nah." And I said, "What's with this girl?" When it finally came out, it was really her. She'd snuck off with some of her friends and gone to this Ngunusendi. And I said, "Why is this girl so rebellious?" And then, like, we're in Brussels, and she was always like quiet, but going off and doing things. But I thought she was okay, but she wasn't communicating so much, and I was so absorbed in my work. So, but she was a real handful compared to my boys. They were my boys were sort of easy to handle, and she was just rebellious. I think that's just the word. She was just but with her telling her story and everything, it just puts it into perspective that she was going through this dark time, and so it just saddens me that she was doing it alone. I mean, that, she didn't share with me exactly why she's really doing the things that she's doing. Probably she didn't know herself why she was doing the things that she was doing. Yeah.
No, and it's a good lesson to us, and these are part of the signs. The rebellion is just a fruit of something deeper that's going on. And quite often we punish the fruit instead of dealing with the root. Not that there shouldn't be consequences at all, but yeah, learning to ask the questions, finding out what's going on when our young people, especially our teenagers, start becoming rebellious or angry or withdrawn. These are signs that there's deeper issues.
Mm.
And so when she had told me the second part of her story about, yes, the men, it made a lot of sense to me, because again, when you've been abused, it generally sends you down quite often a very sexually promiscuous path. Not all the time, but again, it all makes sense. So that's why I'm so passionate about helping our young people find healing. Now, all of us need healing as well. For other families, I know you're quite rare, Tupou, because there'll be hundreds and hundreds of other families listening to this, mums who are very well aware of abuse in their family, who aren't wanting to speak about it or let anyone speak up. How would you encourage them?
I'd encourage them to really pray on it, really pray, seek God, and just try and find the best way. Because, like, I've seen how it's really turned Mele's life around. I mean, I think it might be a good thing to try it, to come out, to let God's love and light shine into that dark place, and because I think, like sin, it exists where there's darkness. When you shine the light, and then it disappears. And what that verse says, that at the name of Jesus, Satan shall flee. So I think, if we keep it, if we have secrets, if we continue to hide it and continue to cover it up, it's something that's always going to be festering, and at some point it shall manifest. So I think, if we just dig down and just help, could be your child, could be even themselves, it could go further down the line. It's just identifying those roots, and trying to root them out, I think will just bring a lot of healing and liberty and free up the person, and they can become the person that God really made them. God created them to come into being, you know. Otherwise, it's just going to be not reaching their full potential if continue to be hidden in the darkness. That's what I feel anyway. I'm just looking at how Mele has come about. Yeah. Mm.
Yes. And I know especially when Mele came out 3 years ago, she got invited to speak at a cancer survivor retreat, which might seem a bit odd, but she spoke and shared her story. And the majority of the women in that room had who had cancer had been abused. And the Bible talks about how when we're silent, it eats away at our bones, doesn't it?
Exactly.
And
Yeah.
so we forget there is actually a direct, not that all sickness is from abuse or whatever, but there is, a link quite often between holding things in, because our bodies weren't created to hold trauma. So it comes out in our skin, cancer, in our eating habits. And so being able to speak out, and even, your encouragement to families, even if you just seek a counselor, again, not everyone has to be public.
Exactly. Yeah.
Tell someone who will listen and who can help, because also Mele has gone and had counseling and now is really working hard to surround herself with good people and learn all she can. So not everyone has to be public, but tell someone, allow the light of Jesus to come in. Any final last words before we end this episode, Tupou?
Just that I really appreciate the work that you're doing, Letitia. I mean, I continue to follow. I listen to the podcast, and it's beautiful listening to all the stories, like heart-wrenching sometimes, but just grateful that something's been done about it. Otherwise, it's just that tradition of keeping things secret and labeling it as taboo, I think is really misplaced. I think it really needs to be highlighted and rooted out. Yes.
Yes, well, thank you for allowing your family and your daughter to speak up. And it is confronting for yourself as a mother. What have I done wrong? You can blame yourself. And I know a lot of mothers and adults don't like their children speaking up because the same things happen to them too. So it can bring back a lot of issues. But I had a cancer in my face cut out last year, and if I didn't cut it out, it would eat my face off. They've done a good job at healing it. So that's what I think about abuse. We've got to let it out, otherwise it will eat away. So thank you once again. It's been an honor and a blessing to speak to you. And I know you've had a big year with one of your sons passing as well. So it's just been, a hard year, but out of death comes life, and may life into your family just continue to flourish and grow. So bless you too.
Thank you, Letitia.